Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using this Blessings of Spring Stamps and Dies for our sentiments. The star of the show is the April Showers Lovely Layers. And then we're also going to be using some paper pads, the Let's Party and the Textiles and Textures Celebrate just came out with the latest release. The other two are a little bit older. It's the Gingham Happy Hearts and then just Happy Hearts. These have a lot of colors that work really well together. And then for the 3D embossing folders, I'm using Soiree, why can't I talk? And Spring Medley. So let's talk about paper piecing. It isn't something that I do all of the time. I don't use my pattern papers probably as much as I should, but it's a really fun way to add extra interest to your Lovely Layers dies. And so let's just talk about some things we should be looking for when we're trying to put them together to help us be successful. These are not hard and fast rules. These are just things I try to pay attention to. So first, I pick a like what's going to be my main print. So in this case, that's this floral here. And then I check to make sure that the colors that I'm picking match that main print so that everything will work really nicely together. The other thing I do is if my main print is larger, in this case it is, the colors or the patterns that I pick to go with it typically will be tone on tone, so they're not as busy, or they will be much smaller. Here, this one is a much bigger, but it has a lot of solid. So I know that I could cut out of that some of my smaller pieces. This is one of the textures, which is really great because it's a very subtle, again, tone on tone. For the shades of green, I chose two of the gingham shades, and then I'm going to get a third green. There's a lighter one in this, what is it? Hold on, I'll remember. Let's Party. There's a lighter green in there that is like a tone-on-tone leaf print, which is really nice because I want my patterns to enhance my die cuts. I don't want them to compete with them. This nice pink polka dot matches the paler pink that is in my main image. Same thing with this peach, and both of these, again, are going to be on the smaller side because my florals are smaller. Same thing with the blue. And for the most of these, you guys are probably going to be like, what is even the pattern, Kelly? But that's just because I know like this larger, the larger pattern is going to be kind of the show stealer, and I don't want anything to compete with that. Not to mention for scale, I do want to have some smaller or more subtle patterns because the flowers are smaller. The galoshes are, well, the galoshes are a pretty good size, honestly. So this is what I ended up with. They're all papers out of those 4 packs, and they all work really nicely with my main print. You guys know that like die cutting for me, I have for a really long time because I'm a colorist, have been like a stamper, colorer, stamp and maybe die cut. So probably in the last year or so is when I've really come around to kind of embracing dies. And one of the tricks that I learned from my friend Dawn is to cut multiples at the time that I'm doing it. And because of that, because I listened to her, who she is much more well-versed at dies, because I listened to her, I ended up being able to have enough to do 2 cards. And so that's something that's really nice. The way that these are sized, if you've never bought a Honeybee paper pack, is they're 6 by 8.5, which means you can get 2 full A2 size cards out of them. Or in my case, I die cut out of one side, and I was able to do all of my die cutting out of one side and then have enough left on the other side to do a A2 layer if I wanted to. For the one card, I did use a pattern paper in the background. For the other one, I ended up using a solid. Something else to know, if you're going to be using patterns with Lovely Layers, you do want to try to make sure they don't have to line up perfectly. Like this florals don't line up perfectly, but I do keep them pretty close to each other so that they'll work nicely together. You'll see later on when we do the stripe for the other umbrella, those ones I did match up because there's going to be one laying on top of the other, so the stripe should match. For these other smaller ones, I did not, there was no need to match them up. because it's just a very small repeating pattern. And I like to tape mine all in a row so I can just move the tape and cut my next multiple. From here, we're going to go right into shading them. Now, there's nothing wrong with not shading them, okay? They'll still be really cute with their patterns. And so this isn't something that you have to do. But again, if you have watched my videos, you know that I like to make things more dimensional. I enjoy, this is the creative part for me. So I enjoy going in. You could use ink blending. I prefer to use my alcohol markers. In this case, I'm using Copics. But what I do for each lovely layer is I lay the top piece, like whatever the next piece is, whatever the next layer is, I lay that top piece on there. I trace around it with my lighter color. And then I go in and add that shading onto that bottom piece all the way through. And you'll see this multiple times as we work through this. For this little crocus, don't be afraid if you're using pattern papers to mix in some solid colors, because they will help give the eye a place to rest. So for like my crocus, I did cut them just out of white cardstock. For this one here, for this umbrella, because the background, the majority of it is white, I did add my shadows again with some cool grays, same as I did with the crocus flower. Crocus, they come in, I think traditionally they're seen as purple, which is what I would normally gravitate toward. But the pattern that I picked didn't have purple in it, so I had to look for other options. And they do come in white as well as yellow. I wanted the centers to stand out. That's why I chose to do them in the white. Plus, it's, again, it just gives the eye a place to rest. For the umbrella, again, I'm laying that top piece on, and then this is the underneath. This is the base piece. So I will mark where the shadow is with my lightest color, and then go back in and start adding the shadows with my darkest color. And just kind of blending these out, just like I would do a stamped image. You certainly don't have to, use as many colors as I am, or, you could just go in there with one slightly darker color than your paper and add a little bit of a shadow, and that would be pretty too, especially if you're new to coloring or not that confident in your coloring. You don't have to use as many colors as I am using. I know that they are on the smaller side, and so that can be challenging to use a couple of different colors. And we're all on different, art journeys. I say that all the time. So if your level isn't there yet where you're comfortable using 3 colors on one of these lovely layers, that's fine. Just use one. Just get yourself comfortable with where those shadows are going to go. So here for these cute little galoshes, how adorable are they in gingham? So cute. So I'm laying that top piece on. I did choose, again, a solid color to go on top of these. You'll see with the yellow ones that we do for like kind of the bonus card. For the yellow ones, I cut them both out of the same pattern, and that worked well too. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It was just kind of switching it up for a different look. I am a big proponent of getting, more out of what you have. And especially with these dies, they're so versatile. I've chose to use all of the flowers, the umbrella, and the galoshes for both of these cards. There's also a little bird in this set, which is adorable. But you could just use the flowers and the galoshes, or you could use the umbrella and the galoshes. Like, there's a lot of different options, and the Honeybee team is spectacular, and they've done a lot of different, samples for you guys to see. The one thing that I will say that I am not great at, and so that's why I'm going to tell you, so that way you could maybe pay better attention than I did. Sometimes when I'm picking out my colors, I don't necessarily pay attention to what all the layers need to be. And so, like, when I was going through and picking them out, I had not picked a yellow because there wasn't really a lot of yellow in my main pattern. However, some of these flowers do need centers, so I knew I was going to need the yellow for that. But just make sure that you're checking back to your layering guide, because those are colored and it will kind of show you. Here with this, I shaded it all up with some pretty traditional greens, but I was having a hard time blending it into the pattern, so I just went over it with a YG03 to blend it in further, and that worked really well. Anywho, back to the paper picking. The layering guide is available on Honeybee's website. So if whatever lovely layers you're working with, if you go in and do a search for it, it will come right up. And then when you open it up as if you were going to buy it, there is a link right there that says, layering guide for, in this case, April showers. And so I just leave that up on my computer screen. You could also print it off. It opens up as like a PDF if you wanted to keep yours with each other. But I just pull it up on my computer screen and leave it there because I consistently have music playing when I am crafting or something. So I was on a murder mystery TV show kick for a while that I would listen to those while I was making cards. But we're back to the music now. So, but anyway, those are super helpful if you're unsure. Now, I always try to leave in my videos not only all of like the shading that I'm doing, but the putting together of each individual layer. Because oftentimes I think when you're looking for a video for something like this, where you have die cuts that are maybe a little bit more intricate, oftentimes we are looking for someone putting them together so we can see what they're supposed to look like. This one is an excellent example of checking the layering guide. So I just layered them up like I normally would. I did not look at the layering guide at all. So I'm shading them with some, kind of light to medium peach colors. That piece right there in the middle is actually meant to be the center of the flower. So once I glanced at the layering guide, I realized that's supposed to be yellow. Now, I'm too lazy to recut it, real talk. I'm not going to recut it, but I did go back in and color it yellow. So that way when I layer up my petals, you'll be able to see that yellow portion, which is the center of my flower. And then this is the only one that has a green base, like a floral or a leaf base that you would put it on. Here, the colors that I chose to shade this tulip with don't necessarily match the paper the best. However, they do match my main image paper the best. And so that's why I chose to shade them the way that I did. Since you'll still see the pattern and the vast majority of it is going to be shaded. This one has 4 layers. This tulip has 4 layers. I decided that I would rather have it match the main colors in the umbrella than I would have it match the particular pink that I picked out. I hope that makes sense. I just thought it would look more cohesive, and I have no regrets. I think that it works really well. I forgot about that. My apologies. I should have warned you just in case flashing lights bother you. So while I was doing this, that's it. That's the only flash you're going to see. So it won't happen again. While I was doing my coloring, we were having some pretty crazy weather and it was super, super windy. And this was probably at about, 10, no, it was earlier than that, 9:30. It was like 9:30 at night. And, the wind, we never fully completely lost power, but it did flash just those, 2-3 times. Here, these are actually violets, and I didn't have any purple. Like violets are violet, right? The violets are turning violet. Anyway, now I'm stuck on that movie. We have to move on. But I didn't have any purple. I did not have any violet in this card. So I chose to cut them out of the blue and figured that was close enough. It was good enough. And again, I'm fine with it. But, traditionally, if you were doing the violets, I could have left them off. I didn't want to. And it's my card and I'm allowed to have creative license. So you do you. If you want to use them in a different color, I think that it's just fine. They're very similar, I think, to like pansies. So you could do them in other colors, whatever colors pansies come in. But anyway, this one does have 4 layers as well, and it has a smaller center. So it's got the lighter yellow portion, and then it has a darker yellow portion. And those just kind of lay on top of each other into the center of the violet. I'm sure that that's much more striking on a purple since they're complementary colors, but I think it also looks nice on the blue, and I'm okay with that. You did probably see me add a little bit of YO2 there in the center, and I did just a little bit, so that way, you would see it kind of blended into the cardstock. So now now that all of our coloring is done, we're going to go through and we're going to build just one of these, one of each, so that you can see how they go together, and then we'll move on to the building of the whole card. So one of the reasons why this whole release was really great, but one of the reasons why I gravitated towards this set today is because, can I just tell you guys, we had a beautiful, stunning day on Monday for the eclipse. It was like 75, and in Northeast Ohio this time of year, that is like unheard of. It was beautiful out. We were able, like, clear skies and sunshine. We were totally able to view the eclipse with no issues, which was awesome. Peanut was off school, so we got to, check it all out together. But Monday night, it started raining. And let me tell you that it did not stop until today. It rained and rained and oh my word. And I know we're not the only ones, but like the struggle is real with two dogs and the just constant rain, because not only do they not want to go outside, and they don't, let me just assure you, they do not want to go out in the rain. So you have to convince them. You have to convince them to go out there. But then once they're out there, I don't know, like the rain invigorates them or something. I don't know. But then they come back just completely covered in mud. Like, we have a deck like at our back door, and Emma, who is a white and black dog, by the way, her paws just were completely blending in with the deck. She was so covered in mud, and they kick it up like under their bellies. So it's been a week. I am so glad that it is not raining today. Thank you, Jesus. But it is, it's supposed to start raining again tomorrow, like thunderstorms. And I have an old lady. If you've never watched my channel before, if you have, you guys all know about Molly. She's my old lady. She does not like the thunderstorms. She doesn't. So I do have to give her some medication for her to be chill during the thunderstorms. But if I wait too long, like during the week, I think it was Monday night. Was it Monday night? No, it might have been. I can't remember now. It might have been Monday. Like they kept saying that we were going to have, no, it was Tuesday. Sorry. They kept saying we were going to have severe storms. And if you don't give her the medication before it starts storming, when it's time to give her the medication, if it's already started storming, she's too anxious. She won't take it. Even if I put it in cheese, mind boggling. But anywho, so like I kind of have to wait and see, like, are they sure they're sure we're going to have a storm? So Tuesday, the percentage was pretty high, and I was like, okay, like they're sure, we're going to do it. Let's go back to the card. So here, this is the Layering Vintage Labels, and I love this set. I think it's an excellent set. I use it all the time. But what this is going to do is it's going to give me a nice kind of resting place for my focal point. I'm going to be doing 3D embossing folders, and the one I'm using this one is a bit older. It's called Spring Medley, and it's one of my favorites. But it is a little bit busier. When I do my 3D embossing, I just kind of spritz the back of the cardstock, put it in, and then run it through. So I want the Layering Vintage label to sit on that background. The other one, the Soiree one, has a flat area, and you'll see when I go to put it, like when I flip it around. It already has a flat area, so I didn't need to create a flat space to put my focal point on. But because this one, I do want it to stay in a particular space, I want it to be even all around, I am going to get it lined up and then I'm going to tape it. So here is that spring medley. I've used this one bunches before. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. And then there's the label that'll go on it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, once the card's put together, you really won't be able to see that label, but it will give us a nice, just flat area. And then this is the other one, which I think is really great. And that one I'll be able to use by itself. For the sentiments, I typically stamp in black. But I didn't really have that going on here because usually I stamp in black, and so that means my sentiment, if I stamp in black or white heat emboss on black, will go. But because they're dyes, I decided I was going to stamp in color on white. And so originally I thought, okay, the one I'll do in the pale tomato, which is a beautiful color, and the other one has green galoshes, so I'll do it in pine. I didn't end up really loving the pine, so I ended up taking that stamp off, cleaning it, and then re-stamping it in Pool Party. Those are all Hero Arts inks. And the Pool Party is a lot closer to that blue, and I did like that much better. I'm sure either one of them probably would have been okay, but it was just like green on green on green, and I didn't really love that. And then I typically do stamp mine 2 times, especially when I'm using colored ink, just to make sure that I have really good even coverage, because I've never used these stamps before and I didn't condition them. I'm going to go ahead and line up those coordinating die cuts to cut these guys out, and then we're going to get to the building of the card. So this is, it has never been an issue for me that I don't like the look of die cuts. It's the putting together of the die cuts that I don't love. So one thing to note with the galoshes, even though it doesn't look like it, one is bigger and one is smaller. You want your bigger one in the front and then the smaller one behind, for them to look like they're sitting next to each other. So just something to know. So if I don't use the hinge technique with press and seal, and I didn't have any up here, and honestly I was too lazy to go downstairs and get some, this is the way that I build my die cut cards. I put a little bit of glue wherever it is that I need to pick something up, and then I lay it over the next die cut, and then I pick it up with the glue. I basically build out my my focal point. I basically build out my focal point away from my background. And so here, like I have these little leaves and everything. I know that this little orange flower over here is going to sit on top of my boots. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, but you'll see I'm only ever just putting glue on the portion that is going to stick to whatever element is underneath it. And then I'm just going to go through and do that with all of the flowers. Here, the umbrella goes on the base. So now that I've got all my flowers pretty much, like the base flowers adhered, I shouldn't call them the base flowers, they're the front flowers, the flowers that will be in the front adhered, then I can go ahead and put down my umbrella, put this down. Now you'll see I am putting glue all the way up, but when I put it down, I'm not going to push the top part down. I'm just going to adhere the bottom. So that way that other crocus and tulip and all my little leaves can slide in behind that. I find this portion of the card making to be endlessly boring. So even though I am a person who likes to try to leave in most anything that she can in her videos because I don't want you to miss out on something that will help you, I did cut that part out just because I didn't want to even watch myself do it. So my apologies. Here I did pop up my sentiment on foam. I am going to snug that in there. And then I will glue this whole piece to my card base, to my A2 panel base, which is that same blue pattern that you see underneath the umbrella and that I used for the violets. And then this will just go on a plain white note card. For the second card, again, I did the vast majority of, the adhering of everything beforehand, but there was one thing that I wanted to show you, which is here. I really wanted you to be able to see the umbrella handle kind of sticking out from behind the boots, but the umbrella handle was too short. So I just cut it. And then I'm going to make sure that those sticks, like the, I guess what would be the metal portion of the umbrella, still line up because we don't want it to look wonky, like it's, bent at some weird angle. But I cut it, and then that way I can have the handle sticking out of one side of the boot and the part that's attached to the actual umbrella on the other side. I just felt like this added to it. I kept trying to find a way to arrange it that I liked, and what seemed to be bothering me was that you couldn't see the handle. So this was my fix for that. And then all of those little florals will go down. Same thing with this sentiment. I did pop it up using some foam tape, and it ends up kind of over on the left-hand side. Now for the little, what do we call that? Like little extra detail things that I always do with my cards. Like these cards are basically done. There isn't anything here that you have to do extra. These are just some things that I enjoy doing. I like to add a little bit of glitter. I do have a gold glitter pen, so I added that to the inside of the flowers where it was yellow. So on the crocus, on the violet, and they do tell you what that other flower is, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And then I used some clear glitter on the rest of the florals, and I didn't go over everything. I just did, a couple of, little glitter strokes here and there. And then from there, you guys know I love me a white gel pen. I use a number 10. And then I drew highlights on my galoshes, on my umbrella, and then just along some of the edges of the petals for the flowers as well. I think I got the centers of the violets. Did I say that? I don't remember. And then the last thing that I'm going to do from there is I'm going to add some gems and some pearls. It's no secret, I love Honeybee's gems and pearls. I think that they're the best. But I pulled out a bunch of them to see what color matches I could find. And the Celebrate set actually didn't match the palette that I picked, and that's no big deal. I ended up using some older ones. I used the Harvest Pearl stickers for like the coral color, and I used the Hugs and Kisses gem stickers for this really pretty light blue. Those are some of my favorites. I can't believe I haven't used those more often. They're super, super pretty. And I use my pokey tool to just pick them up and lay them down. For the most part, that works for me with pretty much no issues. And then that is it. That is both of the cards. I hope this inspires you to kind of use your pattern paper in a different way, get more out of your lovely layers, use up those, pretty pattern papers. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.